You're listening to an Airwave Media Podcast.
Okay, Nathan, confession. I just listened to the new Pride and Prejudice on Audible, and I think I have a crush on Elizabeth Bennet again.
As you should. Marisa Abella absolutely crushes it as Elizabeth. She's stubborn, smart, and basically inventing the art of side-eye centuries before it was cool.
Yes, and Harris Dickinson as Darcy? Woo! Peak brooding hot mess. No notes. I love it.
And we can talk about the cast like Glenn Close as Lady Catherine.
I know!
Ma'am! She walked in and I instantly sat up straighter.
The drama. And it's not some dusty retelling of Pride and Prejudice either. It's vibrant, modern, and even has a brand new score by a Grammy-nominated composer. So honestly, Jane Austen with the soundtrack, I'm here for it.
Enemies to lovers, Elizabeth and Darcy invented it. So whether you're new to Austen or you just need some Regency-level romance in your ears, this is your vibe.
So treat yourself. Go listen to Pride and Prejudice at audible.com/Jane Austen. That's audible.com/Jane Austen. Hi, this is Katie.
And this is Nathan.
And you're listening to Queen's Podcast, the show about women in history. Welcome back to another week in Queen's Podcast. How's your week been? How are things going?
It's been so long since I've seen you 2 hours ago.
2 hours ago at our Pilates class that we go to.
Yes. Been very good, very busy. Need several naps. How about you?
I get that. Busy. Over on Katie's Corner on the Patreon, I have been doing this series called Katie Reads Wuthering Heights, so you don't have to. And it has been so much fun. I think it might give me an excuse to read more classics. I think I might do Animal Farm next.
Ooh, that one's a good one.
It's short. I was like, what is good but short?
Not Wuthering Heights.
Not Wuthering Heights. This podcast is such a great space because I have an obsessive personality and I don't always know people that want to listen to the things that I'm obsessing over. The people on Patreon clearly do. So
yes.
Hey, we're here. Thank you to all our Patreon supporters for listening to my
dealing with our weird shit.
And another good thing I was thinking for Patreon, now that we're getting into spooky season, is Nathan and I last night went and saw that Conjuring movie, and not crazy about it, but the real story about the people that lived in the haunted house in that movie. So not the Warrens, but the other people. I think that might be a good spooky Patreon story one day.
How about we do that? Because that movie was a yawn fest.
And that movie was a yawn fest. It was so
I think we could spice it up a little bit. And give a little kiki too.
So I'd love to dive into that sometime. So yes, let us know if that's something y'all would want to hear on the Patreon. But today, we're not talking ghost stories. We are diving back into one of my favorite historical... Speaking of special interest, one of my favorite historical periods, the Wars of the Roses. We're going to start with the Wars of the Roses. Her life was long and complicated, so this is going to be a multi-part. But Nathan, who are we talking about?
We are talking about Margaret Pole. Hello. The last surviving member of the Plantagenet dynasty. So she lived through all of this Wars of the Roses drama and almost survived the reign of Henry VIII.
Almost survived Henry VIII. Nathan, what are we drinking today?
We are drinking the Lion's Tail.
Wow.
2 ounces of bourbon, 1/2 of an ounce of... Okay, this actually was a concoction of mine, because I couldn't find the ingredient allspice dram. And I was like, what the fuck? So what I ended up doing was getting allspice berries and putting them in some white rum and letting it soak for a little bit. So I think this drink, it was not it.
It was not it.
But if you put this little concoction that I made into some mulled wine, honey,
Ooh.
that's it. So let me finish up this recipe of the not it drink. 2 ounces of bourbon, half an ounce of this allspice concoction, half an ounce of lemon juice, and then some Angostura bitters on top. And then I topped it off with a little bit of cranberry juice. So sounds good, but tasted like paint thinner.
It wasn't it. I love that. This just wasn't my favorite. Oh, you know what? They can't all be winners. What was the one that tasted like battery fuel? Was that Alexandra Feodorovna, I think?
That was one of them, and then it was the grab 'em by the pussy lady. What was her name? Katerina Sforza. Hers was bad too.
It's been a long time since you've had a flop drink.
Yes, but it's a very
can't
strong drink for a very strong lady.
Yes, so let's get into her life.
And guess what? She's a Leo, born on August 14th of 1473 in Somerset, England.
Leo baby. Maggie was the first surviving child of 2 people we've discussed in other stories on this show before. George, the Duke of Clarence, and Isabel Neville, the daughter of the Earl of Warwick, aka the Kingmaker, or as Nathan likes to call him,
Warbeck.
Warbeck, yeah. He did a lot of war digging.
And maybe it's worth noting that if you're a longtime Queen's podcast listener, this first half of the episode it's all old news to you. Margaret Pole is from the War of the Roses, and we have covered this in multiple different episodes.
It's so much drama, and it gave me an excuse to watch The White Queen again. Even though Margaret Pole isn't really in The White Queen. She's in The Spanish Princess, which have you ever watched that show?
Yes.
That show is so bad. And The White Queen, you could tell me you think it's horrible and I wouldn't fucking care. I love that show so much.
If you've been listening to us for years, there's going to be a whole lot of people that you already know, and it's all about the War of the Roses. But in case you're brand new, we need to do some skimming and let you know who these people are and set the scene about what's going on.
Right. When Margaret is born, the ruling family in England is the Plantagenet dynasty, and they've been ruling England for like 300 years. And there are 2 branches in the Plantagenet family, the Starks and Lannisters. Sorry, the Yorks and the Lancasters.
Well,
around 1455, these 2 families start fighting over which branch should be running shit. Yes. So there's a series of civil wars that's called the Wars of the Roses. And in 1461, the Yorks win, and this guy named Edward IV becomes King of England.
Yeah. Edward IV was largely supported by his cousin, the Earl of Warwick, and Warwick got the nickname the Kingmaker. And Edward IV had 2 brothers, George and Richard. And George is Margaret's dad.
Niece to the king, not too shabby. And Warwick, the Kingmaker, had 2 daughters, Isabel and Anne. And Isabel is Margaret's mom. Also, we know y'all want an Isabel and Anne episodes. We know. It's on our radar. So what we're getting at is Margaret was born very well connected.
Yeah.
She's got friends in high places for sure.
Except by the time Margaret was born, there had already been some big drama in the family. What you need to know is that her grandfather, the Kingmaker, has already died in battle against the Yorks. And her dad George has already proven to be a liability to his brother the king. So let's just disclaimer this, that Daddy George is a fucking hot mess express, y'all. Choo-choo.
Hot mess express. I know we can't diagnose people from years and years later, but I would love to see his therapist notes. What was going on with that guy?
Something.
This is all to say, by the time Margaret is born, there's a lot of drama in her family. And her dad has gained the reputation of being just a thorn in the side of his brother, the king.
Yeah, a little bit. Now, back to Margaret. She's born in 1473, and even though there was drama, her dad was a duke, and her mom was a co-heiress of a really sizable fortune. And what we're getting at is, at her birth, it would appear that in life she would want for nothing. And then a couple of years later, her brother Edward was born.
Yes. And it's really fucking confusing, but this is just to show you that her mother and father are Duke and Duchess.
Yes.
And her brother is an earl, her uncle is the king, and the silver spoon is in her mouth.
Yeah, she's gobbling it up with that silver spoon.
Yes. Yeah, and it's diamond encrusted for some reason.
She ate with that silver spoon.
Truly.
But if you were painting an idyllic picture in your head, I'm sorry to tell you that that's about to come crashing down.
Yeah.
When Margaret was 3, her mother had another baby who was named Richard. So both mother and baby survived the birth, but as we've talked about on this show many times before, surviving the actual birth is just the tip of the iceberg in ye old times.
Antibiotics weren't a thing.
Nope.
And people didn't understand germ theory. So it was really common and we've talked about so many women on this show, it was really common for them to get an infection after the birth and it would spread and that would kill them. And it's often called childbed fever. It seems to be what happens here. Asterisks, we will touch on some other theories a little bit later, but sadly, within 2 months after the birth, both Isabel, the mom, and Richard, the baby, are no longer with us.
George, he sees a conspiracy theory.
Right. He is like, nuh-uh, that's not what happened. Margaret's dad is paranoid as fuck, y'all. That's what I'm saying. I think it'd be so interesting. I wish he had a therapist that could be like, ooh, bipolar or something, something to like tell
something.
us. But he is his own worst enemy and he sees enemies everywhere. He is losing his mind. So when his wife and child die, his grief turned into something violent.
Ooh. Now, let's put on our tinfoil hats and put ourselves in Daddy George's inbred shoes. So, childbed fever usually killed people a lot quicker than 2 months. It was like a week, 2 weeks, and it's like, oh,
right.
Shit.
Yeah, I think Jane Seymour lived for like 2 weeks, and Catherine Parr like 3 or 4 more days or something.
Yeah, so it's much quicker than 2 months. And Isabel and baby had been well enough to travel literally a couple of weeks before. And to that, George is like, oh my God, they're all trying to kill me and my wife and my family.
There's a conspiracy afoot.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get to say the word afoot often enough, so I really wanted to put my full text into that.
I'm so proud of you.
I mean, I do think it is strange that they both lived for 2 months. Okay, so my brain knows that
Katie's brain is
past,
going through it right now.
People from the past died of paper cuts, ear infections. People died of stuff all the time that they just didn't understand. But I could see how if you're already prone to be paranoid, how it is kind of weird that they were fine because they traveled from one of their palaces to another one of their palaces that was like a couple of days journey with no issue. And then they both got sick and died. I mean, it's totally likely that she maybe still had some kind of whatever.
Traveling probably didn't make it better.
Yeah, that's probably what it was. But if you're putting yourself in his already prone to shit starting shoes, do you see what I mean?
Yeah, I do. And hey, Katie, here's a super bummer story. So there was this woman from a kind of middle-class family named Anchoret Twinehoe. And her family had worked in service for the Yorks in one way or another for a really, really long time. And Anchoret was around 65 years old and had been a lady in waiting to Isabel for a long-ass time.
What is, just for anybody that doesn't know, what is a lady in waiting? Just like, because it's not like a house servant. It's much closer.
Yeah, it's the queen bee's bitches.
It's somebody who's like, would have been in service of you, would have been in your really intimate moments.
Yes. And poor baby Anchoret had no reason to wish any harm to Mama Isabel or her baby, but George is a psychopath and he's out for blood.
George accused this poor woman of witchcraft and poisoning his wife, which if you got poisoned, why do you need the witchcraft?
Yeah, it seems like it's only one or the other, bro.
Yes. Anyway. he put on a trial where he was judge and jury. Like George was the judge and the jury, put her on trial and had her found guilty and had her executed.
Now, do we think Margaret necessarily remembered all this in detail? No, she's 3. Probably
Okay,
not.
I was about to, she's only 3, yeah.
I'm sure she was told stories about it, but she obviously remembers that her mom is dead, her little brother is dead, and now there's this whole drama. So we don't know if Margaret would really comprehend all of this drama or why, but it set the scene for lots and lots of more drama to come.
Yeah, I'm sure fathers weren't raised. Some cases there are, but for the most part, fathers weren't raising their daughters like very hands-on. So she might have been completely ignorant of all of this going on. But we just don't know, especially in the early part of her life. It's really frustrating that she didn't keep any journals. She didn't really write any letters or anything like that. So we just don't know. I do think, though, because for a long, long time in Margaret's life, her whole thing is like, be chill, be friendly to the throne. And I think seeing her dad be an absolute shit starter and the fallout that's going to come from that, it likely taught her from a young age how not to act.
Well,
she probably learned from dad. Hey, dad fucked around and found out, because the next year she's an orphan.
Wait, what?
Yep. All right, so this is some fucking tea, so buckle up. Basically, her dad, the Duke of Clarence, sent people around England that worked for him. They went all over the country to spread rumors Edward IV was actually illegitimate. So it's unlawful for him to be king anyway. And also, his wife, Elizabeth Woodville, is a witch. She's a witch. So he's a bastard married to a witch. You don't want this to be your king. And he was having his employees do that all over the country.
Oh, wow. So Edward IV arrested some of these dudes that worked for Clarence, and they were like, this dude is nuts. He's hired people to put spells on you and your wife so y'all both die, and he's really gonna try to start a rebellion.
Ugh. Well, I mean, because also he has before.
Yeah,
he's already done this before. If you listen to our Elizabeth Woodville episode, we go into it more, but he has tried to start a rebellion before. So put yourself in Edward IV's shoes. What are his options here? Like, he's tried to forgive and forget, but this guy, he's not going to stop. So he finds his brother put on trial, and he is found guilty of treason, and he throws his brother into the Tower of London. Treason isn't something you really bounce back from.
It's not, you don't get a new PR rep and just have a new campaign.
Did you ever watch Arrested Development?
Yes.
When George is in prison and he's talking to Michael, he was like, I might be guilty of some light treason.
Yes.
And then he goes, first offense. And Michael's like, I don't know of anybody that got a second. Like, George, the Duke of Clarence, this is his second offense of treason. And that's all, even for his own damn brother, that's all is like, off with his head. That's it for you. You're getting executed, dude, you know?
Yeah, and the Duke of Clarence hated his sister-in-law, the Queen, Elizabeth Woodville. So the rumor goes that George, not believing his brother would actually execute him, requested to be drowned in a barrel of Elizabeth Woodville's favorite wine. And we'll never know if that's actually how he was executed. However, there is a portrait of an elderly woman believed to be Margaret Pole later in life, and she's wearing a bracelet with a charm on it, and that charm just so happens to appear like a barrel of wine.
Oh my God, that is so much drama.
I am here for it.
And she's only like 3. Jesus. Also, do you remember when we did the Elizabeth Woodville episode and we ordered a bottle of Malmsey wine?
Yes, we did.
And how gross it was.
Yes, it was. It tasted like sherry in a little bit of a way.
To me, it tasted like if somebody had drank maple syrup and said, what if this was wine?
Very accurate. Very
Consistency and everything. It wasn't my favorite. But let's take a quick break and just kind of recover from this drama.
Yeah.
Y'all are going to hear a word from our sponsors. We'll be right back. You know what doesn't belong in your epic summer plans? Getting burned by your old wireless bill.
Unless we're talking sunscreen, I am not here for the burns.
I know. I mean, I want barbecues, beach trips, 3-day weekend binges of historical dramas. I do not want my phone bill giving me Tudor-level drama. That's why I switched to Mint Mobile.
Yeah, with Mint, you get the same coverage and speed you're used to on the nation's largest 5G network, but for way less money.
Way less. And right now, they've got this wild deal. 3 months of unlimited premium wireless for just $15 a month.
$15. That's like 2 whole tacos. Maybe 3 if it's happy hour. I'll say bye-bye to those jaw-dropping bills and surprise charges. Mint gives you unlimited talk, text, and high-speed data.
And the best part, you don't need to break up with your phone. You can keep your phone, your number, even your contacts. It's like a wireless glow-up without the drama.
I've been saving so much since I switched. I feel like I unlocked a cheat code for adulthood.
Same! And the coverage is great, the price is better, my old provider can keep their overages.
So this summer, skip breaking a sweat and breaking the bank. Get your 3-month unlimited wireless plan for just $15 a month at mintmobile.com/queens.
That's mintmobile.com/queens.
Upfront payment of $45 required, equivalent to $15 a month. Limited time new customer offer for first 3 months only. Speeds may slow above 35 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Tax and fees extra. See Mint Mobile for details. All right, we're back, and that was a lot of drama.
Surely it's only going to be chill after here, right?
We've told this story many a times on the podcast, but what we've never really talked about before is what happens to Margaret and her brother.
Right.
So Maggie is 5, and both parents are dead, not to mention that she's now the child of a traitor. So if you didn't know, sometimes the kids of people who are executed for treason don't necessarily have the best PR in the world.
Not always a great life for them in store.
Mm-hmm.
I actually had a really hard time figuring out where Margaret and Edward were sent after they become orphans. So just figuring out where they literally what happened to them was hard enough. So y'all, I don't know with like education and stuff. I'm assuming she got a good education. The most likely thing that probably happened was that the king took them in. They're his niece and nephew. And they were probably for the next few years raised with their royal cousins. So the children of Edward IV, he had a shitload of daughters, and then he had 2 sons. And his one son that was supposed to be his heir was sent away. And then the daughters and the other son all lived at court. And so her and her brother were probably raised with her princess and prince cousins. And a big part of this assumption is that for the rest of their lives, Margaret and her cousin Elizabeth of York, one of our old besties, were tight, like best friends, super bonded, super trauma bonded.
Yeah, trauma bonded. Because Elizabeth of York, who we've got 2 episodes on, traumatic fucking life, trauma lasagna. And she probably looked at her little cousins and was like, oh, honey, come sit by me.
Sit over here. It's
We're
gonna be
get
okay.
through this. Yeah, we'll get through this together. Just hold my hand. We've got this. Which, thank God, Margaret needs a friend, right?
Needs a friend. This is all assuming. So we know Margaret was super tight with her cousin Elizabeth of York. So if we're working under that assumption, we have to assume that she was raised in the royal household, and we have to assume that she would have gotten the same education as the princesses, and would have been continued to be super, super privileged. And it seems like the king didn't hold her dad's fuckery against her.
Okay, good.
Which is so nice.
Yes. So
nice.
nice.
I've said it so many times on this show. I know he was a bit of a womanizer and he wasn't perfect, but I like Edward IV.
Yeah, he seems
pretty chill and didn't hold this against them. And so it seems like the next 5 years of her life, so from like age 5 to 10, were pretty chill.
And chill, calm. That's boring. So let's fast forward 5 years. And our historical crush, Edward IV, dies suddenly. Now, we know nothing on Margaret's relationship with her uncle. She was probably living in his household, but it's important to remember that this doesn't necessarily mean that they were seeing each other every day.
Right.
living in you can't see my air quotes right now, but living in his household, air quotes, could also mean living in a whole other house half a country away, funded by the king, right?
Right. It just kind of means living off his money.
Yes, exactly. We just have no idea how the death of her uncle would have affected her emotionally. But we do know that it's going to affect the fuck out of her socially.
Yes, because at this time in British history, the drama is nonstop. So there are so many Edwards in this story. I'm
Yeah,
so
gosh.
sorry. The old king is Edward the Fourth, and his son is Edward the Fifth, right?
Sounds English.
Yep. So Edward the Fourth dies. Edward the Fifth, his son, who is a child, is supposed to become king.
Okay.
So Edward the Fourth had another brother, except for the one that he drowned in a barrel of wine named Richard.
Fun.
When it's like, okay, Edward the Fifth is going to be king now, Uncle Richard was like, actually, no. Locks baby Edward, King Edward, in the Tower of London, and he's never seen again. And then all of Margaret's girl cousins go into sanctuary.
Which, once again, makes me go, where's Margaret?
Where is Margaret? And also, where's her brother, whose name is also Edward? So many Edwards. We are going to call Margaret's brother Edward Teddy, because his family did call him Teddy, and there are so many fucking Edwards in this story.
Yeah, so Maggie and Teddy's uncle Richard has decided that their cousin Edward can't be king because he's illegitimate, which is a whole thing that we don't have fucking time for.
Mhm.
So people automatically look at Margaret and her brother Teddy like, okay, does that mean Teddy is king now? Which, if we are going by how the crown is usually inherited, yeah, actually, Teddy is king now.
Yeah, because even though their Uncle Richard was a full-grown man and Teddy was a child, it is supposed to pass from eldest son to their offspring.
Mhm.
So yeah, it should have been Teddy next. But Teddy is 8. Nathan, should babies have jobs?
Babies.
They don't really need jobs.
Babies don't need jobs.
They got more shit going on.
Babies.
And you know what? The rest of the country was like, babies don't need jobs. Please put an adult in this role instead.
But luckily, Uncle Richard is like, nope. Since their dad was a traitor, they can't be in line of succession. And now, I'm king.
Me?
Bitch.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and also like declaring yourself king.
Little me.
Like you're gonna just waltz up and pretend to be king, which I think is a lucky break for Margaret and Teddy.
Honestly, yes, because it was
I just need you to say yes like that.
yeah. With the Princess in the Tower, this was a dangerous time to be an orphan child with a claim to the throne, you know?
Yeah, and so Uncle Richard declares himself fucking king, Richard the Third, and Margaret and Teddy join their household and are raised with his son. And let's just not say the name of Richard's son, because
Is it Edward?
Again.
So there was another Plantagenet boy again.
And
His
he
name
was just Edward.
Again. We've covered a lot of ground, and Margaret's only 10. So let's do a recap.
Okay.
Her mother dies when she's 3, and her dad goes batshit.
Mhm.
Her dad does a treason and is executed, and so she's an orphan by 5.
Ugh.
But that's okay, because she's adopted by the king, but then he dies when she's 10.
Oh no.
And then all of her cousins that have she's been raised like siblings with go into sanctuary. Do not bring her. And then her boy cousins go missing, probably murdered. And then she is adopted by her other uncle, who maybe murdered her cousins. I'm stressed, and it's not even happening to me. I need a drink.
It only gets messier from here.
Oh, God.
Unfortunately for Margaret, things are going to get a lot more hectic before they calm down for a while. She and Teddy join the household of her Uncle Richard, who is known as Richard the Third.
Hey, want to get more confused with this family tree?
Sure.
So Richard is her paternal uncle, and his wife, Anne, is her maternal aunt.
What?
So their dad's brother married their mom's sister.
Ugh.
Because this family tree is a wreath. That makes them double first cousins with their cousin, now the Prince of Wales, which, did you know, fun fact, I learned this from
Is it fun?
I learned this from researching the Habsburgs before. A
Oh,
double first cousin is equal to having a half sibling.
I mean, it makes sense in my brain. Sure. So Maggie moves in with Richard III, and we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on this because honestly, what Margaret was doing and the details of her life at this time aren't really well documented
Yeah.
anyway. So just check out the Elizabeth of York episodes if you want some wild, fucked up family tea from the court of Richard III.
Yes, those are some of my favorite episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Since there is no Margaret Plantagenet scrapbook, I saw some places called her Margaret Plantagenet, like before her marriage. Now we know Margaret Pole. And some called her Margaret Clarence because her dad was the Duke of Clarence. So I'm not really sure what she would have used as a surname. But either way, she did not leave any diaries. There's no scrapbook for us to check out. And no chroniclers are really documenting the life of a 10-year-old royal orphan who's a girl. So we're going to have to skip ahead. 3 years later, Battle of Bosworth. Her uncle Richard is killed at the Battle of Bosworth. And there is a new dynasty in town.
Out with the Plantagenets and in with the Tudors, and the official end of the War of the Roses. It must have been weird because if you were alive in England at that time, the Plantagenet family was always in power.
They'd been in power for like 300 years.
Yeah, and now this guy named Henry Tudor was on the throne, and everybody's like, excuse me, who?
Who? And Margaret is 13, and she has cause to be nervous, if I'm being honest. Her uncle, whose care she's been in since she was 10, is dead. There's a new king in town, and he's not taking any fucking chances. After Henry VII, Henry Tudor, comes to the throne, he locks Margaret's brother up in the Tower of London for no reason besides his claim to the throne. Teddy has a much better claim to the throne because people are like, who the fuck are the Tudors? And it's in London. The Yorks were so popular. So he's like, gotta put this baby in the tower. He was a Plantagenet. He was a York. He held 2 titles, the Earl of Warwick and the Earl of Salisbury. Put a pin in that Earl of Salisbury. That's going to come up again in our second episode.
Salisbury State. Let's discuss how this must have felt for Maggie.
Right.
Her 13 years of life have been tumultuous as hell, and she's been moved all over the goddamn place and had major upheavals in her life, you know, every 3 to 5 years. But the one consistent thing is that she and her brother have been together the whole time. And now they get the news that he needs to go live in the Tower of London.
I don't love it. That's rough. Like, what kind of emotions? Scared?
Like,
scared for herself and her brother.
Yeah.
Yes.
So also hopeless because you can't really do anything, but you do feel like, okay, I have a little bit of, I know some people who know some people, so maybe if I talk to somebody, maybe things can be different.
I kind of, yes, I think she was probably scared. Again, let's remember she's 13.
Yeah.
Also, and her like, I think she's probably scared, but I do think there was a part of her that was probably like, I'm lucky I'm a girl. Because no one gives a shit that I live. You know what I mean?
Well, she doesn't have a claim to the throne. She's
If
not
she had
going to
been a
be
boy-
locked away.
Yeah, like she was probably nervous that she would also get sent to the Tower of London. But luckily, like we were just saying, girls were only viewed as a threat in the sense of they could have sons that would be a threat. But a single girl, so for like one of the first times in this show, it's like, and then because of sexism, her life was better.
It's so true. It never happened. So bookmark this day. So she was put into the care of Margaret Beaufort.
An old episode of ours.
Along with her cousin and bestie, Elizabeth of York. This is just a recap of Queen's podcast.
Right. We got Elizabeth of York. We've got a lot of folks we discussed before.
So if you don't know Maggie B, she's the overbearing mother of Henry VII and ran a tight ship. So Maggie's time there would have been really regimented, but again, it's not fucking prison.
It's not where people get locked up before they get executed. So,
And there's nothing to indicate that Margaret Pole was treated bad in any way, shape, or form while she lived with Margaret Beaufort. But, they probably just prayed.
A lot of getting up early, a lot of praying, a lot of book reading. Yeah, it's fine.
Communion.
So the following year, her cousin and bestie, Elizabeth York, marries the new king, Henry Tudor.
Mm-hmm.
And Elizabeth of York is crowned queen soon after she gives birth to a son named Arthur. And now the queen, she's got to have ladies in waiting.
Mm-hmm.
And the Tudors want to keep eyes on all of these York girls. Because remember that Edward IV had a shitload of daughters. So they got to keep eyes on them. So they make a lot of them ladies in waiting to the new queen.
And it's interesting because the Tudor court really did their best to rid of all of the Plantagenets, except for Elizabeth of York, got to keep a lot of her cousins and sisters and ladies in waiting. It's probably like, okay, one, like we said, girls only do so much damage.
Right.
And number two, let's keep all those York gals close so we can keep an eye on them and maybe marry them off to some people loyal to the Tudors.
Right. And that's exactly what happened to Margaret. So there are huge debates around if Margaret was married in 1487 or 1491. And it actually makes a really big difference because in 1487, she would have been 14 years old, which was above the quote unquote age of consent. Back then, the age of consent was 12.
Yeah.
Oh, I hate it. And then in 1491, she would have been 18. So these two conversations make a big difference,
Most modern scholars think it was probably in 1487 because
when she was 14.
Yeah, because Henry was marrying off all the girls with claims to the throne. All these princesses, if they married ambitious men and had sons, their sons could cause trouble later.
Yeah.
But if they married dudes that were loyal to Henry, then there's no problem here.
Yeah, so Henry is like, let's marry all of these girls off super fast. So it makes sense. I hate that if she was married off when she was 14, but from Henry VII standpoint, I kind of get it of like, we got to marry these girls off to people that are loyal to me, and she is of marriageable age. So when Maggie was about 14 years old, probably, she was married to Richard Pole. We don't want to be elitist. But before the Tudors took over, the idea of marrying Margaret Plantagenet, Margaret Clarence, whatever, daughter of a duke, niece of two kings, to somebody that didn't have any titles, anything, would have been what historians call wackadoodle.
Oh, technical term.
Wackadoodle. Yes, I'm sorry to throw such scholarly words at you. Just insane. If she had reached marriageable age when her uncle was king, she would have either been married to another duke in England or possibly even been married into another country for alliance purposes.
Yeah. Honestly, if Margaret had any problems with marrying someone, quote unquote, beneath her, she didn't ever express them. Because also why would she?
Because she doesn't want to get her head cut off.
Yeah, exactly. She's also probably wanting to make moves that make her look more friendly to this new dynasty. Henry VII doesn't seem to have any problems with locking Plantagenets up and throwing away the key.
Exactly. Also, in her life, she has seen relatives killed or punished for nothing more than just living and existing in proximity to the throne. So if this union is going to remove her from the line of fire, wouldn't you be like, yeah, sure.
Yeah. If my head doesn't get cut off, I'm fine.
Oh, you mean marrying this nobody is gonna make me not be under constant scrutiny? Cool.
So let's meet this nobody.
Yeah.
His name is Richard Pole. He's around 30 at the time of this marriage.
She's around 14. He's around 30. We don't love it.
Gross. But we've seen worse, which doesn't make it better.
It doesn't make it. I mean, the bar is in hell. The bar is in hell, but we have definitely seen creepier situations. And honestly, there's just not a whole lot to know about him. He was like a half-second cousin to Henry VII, I believe, but like not on the royal side. Like it's confusing. But we do know that Richard Pole, the husband, his sister was lady in waiting to Elizabeth York as well. So we know that Margaret like interacted with the sister. So it's pretty likely that she would have known him beforehand. And it wasn't just like, hey, you're engaged to this person you would have never met, which could
Mm.
have been a reality for her. So that's kind of nice that at least it was somebody that she got to like assess beforehand.
Yeah, like she sussed him out.
Yeah, and you know what? If she had any like major complaints, she probably could have said something. This is, I mean, no
Yeah.
facts, just vibes, but that's what I'm getting from like knowing him beforehand, meeting him beforehand. If she would have been like, I cannot stand that guy, she could have told her bestie, the queen, you know?
Yeah. And for Richard Pole, things moved a little fast. His cousin became king. He got knighted and engaged to what is basically a princess.
Basically.
Yeah, all in the span of 2 years or less. Whiplash.
So, yeah, basically all we know about Richard Pole is that he was ride or die for Henry VII. Which
Mhm.
honestly, if your cousin got named king tomorrow, wouldn't you
Yeah.
also be?
Same.
We know nothing about how either Maggie or Richard felt about this arrangement. We know so little about the wedding that we don't even know what year it was in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we do know that it seemed like neither of them had complaints. It seems to have been a pretty happy marriage. That age difference was normal then. And also, because they agreed to get married, they got palaces, they got land. And back then, owning land meant that you could rent out land, and that's how you got money. So they got favors, they got land. It seems to be
Yes,
a bit of a win-win for them, don't you think?
it does.
Yeah.
And this is about the only time in this story that will be happy. So we're going to take a quick break so
quick
that
break.
your serotonin gets to up itself. So
Yes. We'll be right back.
fall is in full swing, and honestly, it's the perfect time to refresh your wardrobe with pieces that feel as good as they look. Luckily, Quince makes it so easy to look polished, stay warm, and save big without compromising on quality. I've been living in their 100% Mongolian cashmere sweater that I snagged for just $50. Like, how is that even possible? And I've got my eye on their wool coat next, and it looks totally designer but cost a fraction of the price. And the quality, just as good. What I love is that Quince partners directly with ethical top tier factories and cuts out the middlemen, so they deliver true luxury at half the price of their similar brands. It makes upgrading your wardrobe feel smart, stylish, and effortless. Honestly, Quince has become my one stop shop for fall staples. I'm reaching for their pieces time and time again. So keep it classic and cozy this fall with long lasting staples from Quince. Go to quince.com/queenspod for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/queenspod for free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/queenspod.
And we're back. So let's check in on how married life is going for Maggie.
So far, so good. From a historical standpoint, the two had what we would call a quote-unquote successful marriage, meaning they popped out babies, 5 children.
No one tried to kill the other one.
Yes.
Luckily, Maggie was not having babies at 14.
Thank God.
Thank God. So that's why a lot of scholars think maybe she wasn't married until she was a bit older. They didn't have kids until 1492, when Margaret would have been about 19. And there is just such a huge difference physically and
Yes.
mentally from 14 to 19.
It makes it a little better.
Yes. They named that son Arthur. Anyway, they had a couple of kids, and then baby stopped for like 5 or 6 years. And this is probably because around this time, Margaret stopped being a lady in waiting. She quit working for Elizabeth of York for a while, and she went to live in Buckinghamshire, like at one of her husband's estates, and just quit working.
And there doesn't seem to be any drama.
I don't think her cousin fired her. or anything.
Yeah, her and her cousin are still besties. I think she just wanted to be home with her kids, maybe something about not having a whole lot of memories with her own mom sort of situation. Speculation station. Maybe.
But I mean, that makes sense. Like, she's having kids on a pretty regular basis. They go on to have like 5 kids. That makes sense that she's like, I would rather just be
At home with the kids.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. But her husband is still working at court. He's going back between Buckinghamshire, London, or wherever the court might be, and Wales, because that's like where one of his jobs were. So like that's probably why they had like 2 or 3 kids, and then it stopped for like 5 years, and then they have 2 or 3 kids more because they probably just weren't seeing each other as often. But they do eventually go on to have 5 kids total. One of them, who will be very important, is named Reginald. Reginald Pole was born on March 12th, 1500, and I happen to think that is an excellent birthday.
And his name is Reginald.
Put a pin in Reginald Pole for a future episode.
Then she also had a boy named Geoffrey and a daughter named Ursula, my favorite Little Mermaid witch.
I saw something the other day that was like, The Little Mermaid is a movie about contract law.
Yes, it is.
Actually,
it is.
Yes.
Factually. Actually,
factually.
We could talk about how refreshing it is to not hear a name about Edward or Margaret or Elizabeth.
We have done so many British history episodes, and I feel like this is our first Ursula. We've done a million Elizabeths and Margarets and Marys and then
Sing to me.
A million Edwards and whatnot. So I'm like, Ursula, I love it. And you know what? Reginald, I like too.
Reggie.
But life was pretty chill for a while, living her domestic bliss, away from court, away from the drama. But she was still invited to court for like the major holidays. It was kind of best of both worlds. I mean, put yourself in her shoes. Wouldn't you love the thought of not having to be at court all the time? Court, the thing that murdered my dad, but also you get FOMO. So it's
Katie knows about that.
I do. So she's still invited to stuff. So she's just having a little chef's kiss balance of priorities. I love that for her.
Yeah, and in this family, if it was out of sight, out of mind, the drama is in sight, in mind. And this part is going to be a stone cold bummer. Remember her brother, Teddy? He's been in the Tower of London for 13 years.
Ugh.
But honestly, hasn't caused any trouble. There had been one tiny hiccup, but besides that, Teddy's been harmless. There's some historians who believe he was, quote-unquote, simple or mentally disabled, but oh my god, if you were locked in the Tower of London for 13 years without a single fucking person to talk to, maybe you would be a little crazy too.
Yeah. Like, there's this one thing that's like, he couldn't tell a goose from a gander. And I'm like, well, maybe because he's never seen a goose.
No one taught him.
So a slight deviation from Maggie's story. Let's talk about that little hiccup that you mentioned. Yes. In 1487, there was this little boy named Lambert Simnel, and he claimed to be the Earl of Warwick. So basically, he claimed to be Teddy. And in Ireland, he was even crowned King of England. And so, like, he had a bit of a following. And basically, to say, no, the fuck he isn't, Henry VII had the real Teddy like march through the streets.
Oh,
and so that I thought that might be a fun Patreon episode.
That
Maybe like let's do a little deep dive into this this little baby, because like how does a 10-year-old amass a huge following? I thought that might be. Anyway,
but luckily Henry VII didn't treat Teddy with any unkindness after this Adam Lambert Simnel fiasco.
I'm never going to be able to unhear that now. Adam Lambert Simnel. Oh my goodness.
But luckily, Henry VII didn't treat Teddy with any unkindness after this Adam Lambert Simnel fiasco. I mean, besides for throwing him right back into the Tower of London.
I mean, him living in the Tower of London maybe wasn't a kindness. But
not a great day. But there's a good chance that Margaret may have been super stressed out when all that was going on.
Yeah, of course.
She's worried about her brother, right? But also worried for herself and her kids. If the king gets pissed off with their head.
Right? But now it's 1499 and there's another pretender in town. So we're not going to spend too much time on it because we actually already have a full hour and a half long Patreon episode on this pretender. His name is Perkin Warbeck. He pretended to be Maggie's cousin Richard, one of the princes in the tower that went missing all those years ago. And I don't think Margaret was at court when Perkin Warbeck came to town. So there's no evidence to support what she would have if she would have met him and made any kind of assessment. But this was a big fucking deal.
Yeah, and he was a con artist. He was a good pretender and did very well for himself.
Very well for himself.
He had the support of the King of Scotland and married him off to some rich Scottish lady. And he had to have been charismatic, though.
He had... Perkin Warbeck
really
had to have had the riz. And
perky.
A lot of people hated...
He was perky.
I think in our Patreon episodes, you mainly called him Perkin or Perky Warboobs.
Yeah, that sounds...
You're like, that sounds like something I'd say. Yeah. So I have to imagine this whole thing would have made Margaret nervous for a couple of reasons. Fuck, anytime someone tries to start drama around who the rightful king is, the relatives of that family take the brunt of it. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they clutch their pearls.
Anytime someone's like, I'm from the Plantagenet dynasty and I'm gonna fuck with your claim, everyone then looks sideways at any of the people that are actually from the Plantagenet dynasty. So it's a bit of a test of her loyalty when this shit pops off. But fuck, this one involves her brother.
I know.
Yeah.
Because her cousin Richard, the guy who Perkin Warboobs is saying he is, she would have grown up with him and possibly lived with him for 3 years-ish. If she was truly raised alongside the kids of Edward IV, they would have been raised more like siblings for a time.
So she could have clocked him, probably.
Yeah.
I don't know. They were so young, but I don't know. I feel like if I hadn't seen my sister for 10 years or whatever, I would still be able to clock my sister. You know what I mean?
I don't know. If I was baby, when it happened?
Well, I guess she was 10 and he was, I don't know. Anyway. Anyway. So there's an anxiety of what does this mean for me? Could this actually be my cousin that no one knows what happens to? Again, we have a Patreon episode on Perkin Warbeck, and then we do also have History's Mysteries on the Princes in the Tower, if you want to get into that too. But the short answer is Perkin Warbeck, no, which is probably some guy.
I think you pronounced that wrong.
Perkin Warboobs was... Thank you so much for correcting.
So there's anxiety of what does this mean?
Right? Am I going to get in trouble? If they bring me to court and it is him, am I going to get in trouble? Luckily, she
probably not.
Luckily, she was still never she could have been called to court to be is that him? One of the only people that could actually...
It's like a Maury Povich show. The father.
Not the cousin. Yeah.
Perkin Warbeck had gained so much support that this was a problem.
The TLDR. Did anybody think this was actually her cousin Richard?
Probably not.
Henry VII was a bit paranoid and saw enemies all over the place too. And he had probably been looking for a reason to get rid of Teddy for a while now. But while this is going on, Henry is trying to also negotiate a marriage from his oldest son, Arthur, to a daughter of the monarch of Spain. So the monarchs of Spain at this time are our problematic fave, Isabella of Castile, and her douchebag, this fucking guy, husband, Ferdinand of Aragon.
Bleh. The Spanish martyrs are like, yeah, you're telling me that there's a guy over there pretending to be a dead prince? And then another guy you've been locked up in a tower that has a better claim to the throne than you? Oh, okay. Now
And you want us to send our daughter into that?
Excuse me. Not until both of them are dead. Problem. Foreshadowing.
So, because of this, in 1499, Margaret's little brother, Teddy, the Earl of Warwick, was executed for treason. Again, you can go check out our Perkin War Boobs episode on like why, but it was some bullshit. Like
Yeah,
it was categorically bullshit. Like it was. I'm just gonna shut up because it makes me so mad. But that is the end of the Plantagenet dynasty, honestly.
Yeah, and we really struggled to find anything at all on how much Maggie started, trying to stay in touch with Teddy over the years. Did she go visit him? Did she write him letters? Would he have been allowed to read letters? All unclear. But even if she hadn't spoken to him in years, there's no way this wouldn't have affected her.
Correct. I mean, could you imagine if you hadn't spoken to your brother in years, then you find out he's in big trouble? Of course it's going to affect you,
Yeah, because it's like it's your brother.
It's your brother. And they were so bonded for the first 13 years of her life,
And how many boys have just disappeared in this family, right? Like dad executed, boy cousins, Edward, Richard,
disappeared.
Gone. Uncle Richard killed in battle. And now the brother was yet another casualty to the crown.
Might make you want to be super overprotective of your own sons, right?
Whoa, wait a second.
Put a pin in that. Whatever Margaret felt, we can only guess. But I bet for her own safety, she kept those opinions to herself anyway.
And she has a new job to do. Remember that princess from Spain who was only allowed to come to England if everybody died?
Yes.
Well, you're going to be her chief lady in waiting. So pack your bags, Maggie. You're heading to Wales.
And that's where we're going to leave it for this episode. So tune in a couple of weeks for part 2. And check out the Patreon for those other things we talked about. And Nathan, I'm sure everything is going to go great.
It's gonna be fun.
All right. Cheers, bitches.
Cheers.
Hey, JJ Virgin here. On my podcast, Well Beyond 40, we ditch the idea of aging gracefully and go all in on aging powerfully. Every week I host powerful experts who can give you powerful insights on building muscle, boosting your energy, and feeling amazing no matter what your age. This is your one life, and trust me, being smarter and stronger are superpowers that can turn lifespan into strength span. Listen to Well Beyond 40 wherever you get your podcasts.